Welcome to another episode of Eat, Smoke, Drink. Today I am going to take you through DAK coffee roasters from the Netherlands. Is that correct? From the Netherlands? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's from the Netherlands. Yes, Amsterdam. Okay, so DAK, just a little background. This is the first of two top 50 roasters globally that I've tried. So when I say top 50, I in all of the coffee judges around the world, they got together in a giant round table because they, like King Arthur's table, and they judged coffee roasters and entrants. And these guys got the mark of the top 50 roasters in the world. So there's a website about it called Roasted. And so what I'm doing is that since we've left New Zealand, I have gone out on a mission that if we visit a country with a top 50 roaster, I'm going to buy a couple of beans or a few beans of theirs. But this one, we're not visiting, and we haven't visited Amsterdam. But in Madrid, there was a shop that stocked another top 50 roaster, which I will go through as well in another video. And they happen to have DAK. I've had DAK before, DAK coffee, that is, in New Zealand. A friend of mine gave me some, and I thought it was absolutely exceptional. And I had it at the very start of my coffee obsession, but I never understood who they were until I looked at this website. So that's funny, because until about a year later, then I was like, wow, they're actually top 50. And I started thinking back why I found them so fucking good. And now I understand, because they were top 50. So just as before, I'm going to do a 5 gram 1:16 ratio pour, but let's get sniffing. So this one is called Milky Cake Castillo Thermal Shock. Now, I have no idea what thermal shock is. I don't really give a shit, but thermal shock must be the process. Okay, this is a Colombian bean. It says cardamom, pistachio, vanilla cake. Let's see if any of that can be sniffed out. So let's open the bag and I do get a bit of that cardamom if I really stretch my mind, but the pistachio is definitely there. I'm getting a little bit of a floral acidity to the nose. I'm getting black forest, that chocolate. It's a little funky. I don't know what thermal shock is, but whatever it is, it's giving a little funk. I don't know why they say vanilla cake, but I kind of get the vanilla aspect of it from the creaminess of the black forest. Now, what I've noticed with, this top 50 roaster is, I don't know what they do, but the roast profile is exceptionally smooth, and I can't describe it, but there's just a particular profile of smell that's just, like, there's no spikes in flavor. It's almost like a blended whiskey to some degree, which I don't like in the whiskey, but I can't describe it. Golden syrup, maple syrup, some dry grass, slightly wet soil, very pleasant on the nose. Okay, very pleasant on the nose. You're probably wondering why I have the writing on top. That's just how I remember some of my recipes, so I can look at it and then I can hone it. I've only tried this in the V60 format, so nothing in the nothing in the immersion. Anyway, let's grind this and see if we can pick out anything on the grind. While I'm doing this, I'm gonna heat the water. Now, what I do as well, not that it matters and people give a shit, but when I go and order these beans, I kind of do a month or two of reconnaissance to make sure that I can pick them up, and they can, I can get because I just don't trust Airbnbs, like it's too hard to get an Airbnb in a foreign country where you don't speak the language. It's just impossible. And I email a lot of roasteries. There's a shitload of roasteries around the world, as you can imagine. And I email them, and some of them just don't respond. So I'm constrained to the ones that respond as well. But at the same time, if I really want something, I will keep harassing them until they respond to me. And this is the top 50s. I do that. I insist that they get back to me and that they send their coffee something for me to pick up. So on the nose, once you've ground the coffee, it's a slightly darker roast. It's a slightly darker roast than your than the nose that you're getting. But when I say darker roast, like not too dark, but dark like a black forest kind of darkness, that kind of oil is starting to turn a little bit. And I think this is where the top roasteries and also the top type beans, it's like the balance of them trying to push it to the boundaries where it's not an espresso roast, but it's kind of getting closer to it. And I think that's where the skill is, So let me just let that sit, get that timing, and I'll see you in 3 minutes. All right, we are now on the 3-minute mark, just the last stir. Okay, I don't want to stir it too much. Now, what I've done with these, all of my top 50 roasters and the new beans that I've purchased, I've only done V60 on them. So these are the first times I'm trying immersion. And I'm starting to become more and more of a fan of immersion, but I like to try both because sometimes you get the V60 that just really shines. But I'm starting to become more of a fan of immersion. It tends to be, doesn't give you that bitterness as much as the acid and the fruitiness. And I know some people like that bitterness in a coffee, but when you're buying coffee like this, I find that I want to taste the more subtle flavors, and the pour over tends to bring out more of the bitterness and the immersion tends to not. So this is why, but anyway, I try them all in both anyway, because I want to see which one's better. And sometimes it depends on my mood. Sometimes I do want something a bit more robust, but this one here. So when I smell this, the smell is a lot dirtier than the, so it's very dirty, okay? Very dirty smelling. Clay, soil, earth, wet wood, decomposing wood, leaf litter. And then you start to get some fruit coming through. Not too much though, not too much. This is not a very fruity coffee. Nutty, like an over roasted peanut, just on the cusp of that peanut getting burnt, just almost, just a little bit of that. A little bit of burnt butter. Look, I'm not getting the cardamom. I'm a real sham, not getting the cardamom out of it, but I am getting just a pinch of black pepper in there. So there is definitely a spice. So maybe some people just associate some smells with something else and some not, whatever, Cardamom does sound fancier than black pepper, so maybe it's just one of those things. But cardamom has a distinct fragrance that I can't mistake because I'm a big fan of using it for cooking and I can't get it in there, but that's just me. So this is what's interesting. The nose and the flavor profile of the palate is extremely dislocated from each other. I'm getting an immense amount of sweetness. I'm telling you, immersion is where it's at, man. Immersion is where it's at. Because I'm not filtering this as well, so I can taste that it's a little bit dirtier than my normal clean extraction. Fuck the spoon. Okay, so now this is what's interesting. On the palate, I am getting the cardamom. Like a slight lemony, cardamom-y taste. I'm getting some floral nature in there, a little bit of fruitiness, but not much, not much. It's very earthy, spicy. And being a top 50 roaster, the drinking is a pleasant drink. It's a beautiful drink. You can see the pedigree is there, but I don't understand how. This is what's interesting to me, and this is where I think what it comes down to, because these roasters that they're buying, and if someone out there knows, please tell me, but these roasters, like the machine that they're buying, they're all computerized nowadays. They don't do it manually. So they're all computerized. They put them in the laptop, they change the parameters, and the roasting machine does it identical each time. Exact same temperature, as long as you calibrate your shit. Everything is the same. So why and how can a top 50 roaster be so different? The feeling is so full and so satisfying versus some cheaper ones. And look, I don't buy cheap coffee as such that, because I can't be bothered drinking something that is just going to be unpleasant. That's why I go to cafes for. Most cafes disappoint me now, but I have gotten in Chile, I did get a batch of really cheap coffee to try it out. And the difference in quality is massive. And I think that it's not just the roasting style and the coffee roasting, because I'm sure you can get some coffee profiles out there from online and use that as a template and then tweak it to your palate. So I'm sure they all have impeccable palate. What I'm thinking is that the top 50 roasters, not only do they have consistency in their styles, but maybe their process of experimenting, they do it in smaller batches and they go, all right, this is the perfect style. And then they program that into a bigger batch, great. Or maybe they do smaller batches. So it roasts different in a smaller batch. Instead of a 5 kilo in a 2 kilo batch, it roasts different. That's what I'm thinking. Because when you've got lots of beans in a machine, you're not going to be able to roast it like you would in a small batch, right? Like no one can claim that. That's another thing that I'm thinking. And one more big thing is the quality of the beans. Because maybe they have the ability to sell for higher pricing because they have a better name, then it's a bit of a slippery slope up where they can then afford to buy the more expensive beans and move the product, not fearing that they're going to be stuck with high grade expensive beans and out of pocket. And that's what I'm thinking with these, because the flavor is just so fucking good. It's just so good. And I just don't understand. So I hope that someone out there can explain to me why. But anyway, hey, that's part of the mystery of anything that you consume, that you can make with recipes and different things. Until next time, make sure you eat, smoke, drink, and I will see you next time. I have one more roastery that I bought from Madrid, from Spain, called Nomad Coffee. Another top 50 roaster. I will do that video in a few days, and just because I've had enough coffee today and I'm about to turn into the Hulk. Cheers.